Welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Purendra Prasad. I work in the Department of Sociology, University of Hyderabad. Today we will talk about health policies and specific disease programs in India. We will take up malaria as a specific case. This is part of Sociology of Health course. Health policies actually are very important in providing the health status of a particular nation. If you look at some of the tropical diseases that have been actually affecting the people, malaria actually ranks as one of the very serious and devastating disease. Well, if you look at 2013 WHO's World Malaria Report, you still have 207 million malarial cases actually registered. About 6 lakh people died of malaria. This is WHO's malaria report in 2013. So after several decades, we still have malaria as one of the important kind of disease that is actually causing mortality. If you look at 1935 in Indian context during the British rule, it devastated millions of people. A lot of people were affected, thousands of people died. That is the reason why in 1949, when India attained independence, uh, one of the important focus was to control malaria. So when you look at immediately after independence, about 70 million malarial cases were actually recorded. Given the intensity of malaria, in 1953, Government of India actually formed what is called as National Malaria Control Program, NMCP. Basically, NMCP was to identify the cases, provide immediate kind of a treatment, and so they were so confident that DDT, which was used to spray in the uh, 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 in the vicinity of the residential communities, they actually within 3 years, 1956, they formed, they renamed this organization NMCP into NMEP, meaning that National Malaria Eradication Program. So they were confident that we will be able to eradicate malaria. What causes malaria? It's mosquitoes. If mosquitoes cause a particular disease, is there a scientific kind of reasoning and is there a scientific remedy for it? Yes. The treatment for malaria actually is there, both in terms of, there are 3 types of malarial cases. One is Plasmodium falciparum, which is called PF. Second one is Plasmodium vivax, that is PV cases. Third one is cerebral malaria, which affects actually brain. In India, at the time of independence, we had more than 60% of the cases actually PF cases, Plasmodium falciparum cases, and which is not fatal, which actually can be easily addressed. A small proportion, about 20 to 30% were PV cases, Plasmodium vivax, which is much more rampant in Africa and other continents. And cerebral malaria was less than 5% of the cases. So, malaria actually is caused by this germ or a plasmodium which transmits through its bites. So there were three sets of solutions that scientists and the medical professionals actually came up in terms of malaria eradication policy. One, spray, DDT spray so that it can kill the mosquitoes. Second, identify the blood samples, treat these cases immediately with chloroquines and primaquines which were available in primary health centers actually at free of cost. Third, address the cesspools and the drainages and other set of sanitation measures. So these were three set of measures that they thought will be adequate to wipe out mosquitoes and actually address the concern of malaria. But if you look at the way by 1969 the malarial cases, the incidence of malaria actually increased. That's because the government was not able to supply adequate DDT insecticide. Government was not able to provide adequate kind of medical resources in terms of tablets, in terms of providing the health personnel. The shortfall in terms of government kind of commitment was primarily because of it was both in terms of war that was going on in India and Bangladesh, and the kind of international treaties with US which actually tried to curtail the supplies of DDTs. So the political factors played a very important role in terms of supply of particular kind of insecticide, where there was hope that they could actually address the malaria cases completely. But with the fall in insecticide supplies, the incidence actually increased. And later on, with several kind of scientific kind of research in terms of providing the kind of insecticides, when a lot of money was actually pumped in by the Indian state in discovering new insecticide that can address the mosquito menace and mosquito problem. But mosquitoes proved to be much more immune and probably higher rate of survival, and therefore every 3 years scientists had to come with new insecticide. But within 3 years these mosquitoes actually became immune and those insecticides were not effective. So a huge money was invested every time on the insecticide, but nothing happened. So the mosquitoes actually became part of the third world context, particularly the Asian countries, and it continues to be a major kind of a health problem even today. Okay, so when you look at the second set of problems. Okay, why is it that the chloroquine, primaquine, which is supplied free of cost to the communities, actually did not work? It's again in terms of it is to do with the efficiency of the public healthcare system. So, if you look more carefully in terms of diagnosing the case and providing the treatment, it requires laboratory kind of tests. So, what Government of India did was to make these health personnel go door to door survey, collect blood samples of all the febrile illnesses or people affected with fevers, collect the blood samples and send them to the community health centers, get the reports and send back these kind of identified cases and dispense them with the anti-malarial kind of medicine. But the effective cycle in which the healthcare system work did not actually reach out to the people. So that's in terms of treatment. Okay, so the scientific kind of a solution in terms of DDT or other insecticides had limitation in India because mosquitoes survived much better, worked more clever. The immediate kind of treatment mechanism that Government of India devised in terms of collecting blood sample from all fever cases and addressing the problem, that also had limitation because our own healthcare system actually had limitations. Then now what is important is to understand that health policies cannot actually provide results without involving the communities. It's only through community participation, making people actually part of these policies and programs, that one could achieve tangible results. Here, one needs to understand why the next level of intervention that came in 80s in terms of bed nets. They talked about insecticide sprayed bed nets which will be supplied to the rural communities, that actually would be able to protect them from mosquitoes and prevent malaria. And Government of India devised a kind of program to supply these bed nets at low cost or to some of the marginalized and vulnerable communities free of cost. Okay. So that program actually was also did not result in much progress because the community kind of beliefs and practices in terms of using bed nets, okay, was not understood by the government. A lot of working class people and the poor people in rural India do not have proper housing. They do not actually sleep on the cots where they can actually tie the bed nets. So even those groups of people who had some provision of actually using the bed nets thought that this is actually used by the upper classes, not by the lower classes. So there were cultural kind of beliefs which prevented them from using the bed nets. In fact, a lot of researchers actually from Gujarat and other states revealed that the fishermen community started using these bed nets for fishing, and some of the Dalit Hadpatis and others were started using these bed nets as their door because they do not have any door. So whenever they go out of the house, they just used it as as a cover. And some people were using it as bed sheets. So, given the kind of community living and their perceptions, BedNet also had its own limitations. So, the point that we are talking about is, whether it is insecticide spray, whether it is immediate kind of treatment through supply of medicines, or in terms of addressing it through the bed nets, none of these three strategies actually were helpful. And this is where I think health policies need to identify the community needs, involve them in addressing the kind of set of problems that they are encountering. Okay. So, at a policy level, in the Indian context, all the three interventions had limitations, and moreover, unless you have a structural kind of factors that can actually provide them with adequate kind of a housing, safe drinking water, and the employment opportunities, real kind of empowerment and the way they can actually address these concerns cannot be possible. So, keeping the people illiterate, poor, ignorant about lot of these things does not lead anywhere, and therefore tropical diseases which were there even during the pre-British period continues to be a major health problem today. Interesting fact is that, do you know where is the first malarial case that actually occurred in the world? Do you think that is it in India? Do you think is it in Africa? No, it is actually in London. The first malarial case actually was in London. Today the entire developed country actually is out of these malaria. Why? It is because of their standards of living, their kind of the kind of opportunities that they were able to create for the entire population. Believe me, if you go to any of the Western countries and you happen to get affected with malaria there, they do not even know how to treat today, because they are completely out of it. So, it is not about West and East, it is about the conditions of living. What induces disease? Poverty induces diseases. So, today malaria, tuberculosis, diarrhea and other respiratory diseases have become the diseases of the poor. Why is it that the urban elite and urban kind of other classes of people are not as much affected and die of these diseases? That is because of the adequate food, particularly the nutritional food, the way they live, the kind of enabling environment that they create. So, diseases and their kind of linkage, both in terms of cause and treatment, is linked to conditions of living. And this is where we are talking about how sociologists actually can contribute in terms of analyzing the reasons underlying the non-utilization of the medical kind of solutions, the policy level kind of programs, and in terms of how one needs to bridge the people's cultural, and social kind of knowledge system into the medical domain. So unless both medical and non-medical factors actually are addressed together, the possibility of actually addressing the mortality and morbidity rates in India actually is very bleak. And this is where the story of malaria in India is very, very clear, that in 1953 we started with National Malaria Control Program. In 1956 we started with National Malaria Eradication Program. In 2001 World Bank actually advised Indian government saying that if you need to get the grants or the aid from the World Bank, you need to rename the National Malaria Eradication Program into NAMP, meaning that National Anti-Malaria Program. So you can neither control nor eradicate. That has gone. All that you can do is you can only come up with anti-malaria programs with limited success. So we have to live with it. Okay, and this is where I think today the world kind of malaria programs are talking about rollback malaria, but rollback malaria is directly linked to addressing inequalities and the structures that are actually creating the inequalities. And this is where I think one needs to understand the linkages with disease and poverty. Let me sum up this module on malaria. Now, malaria actually is caused by a parasite basically from mosquitoes. For several decades we have not been able to address the problem of malaria because we have failed in controlling mosquitoes. So it is not simply about mosquito causes malaria, it is about improving the living conditions. Earlier it was believed that mosquitoes actually breed only in cesspools and in the dirty kind of water. But today scientific research has demonstrated that mosquitoes actually thrive even in fresh water. So in every house our overhead tanks, lakes and every part of our water bodies actually contribute to the mosquito breeding. So there were efforts by the Indian state to eliminate the mosquitoes at the larva stage itself through the insecticide spray, but it did not actually work efficiently because it is something that one needs to improve the living conditions also. So when you look at the example from the British period, they identified that higher incidence of malaria along the canal regions. So they thought that all the irrigated regions actually contribute to higher incidence of malaria, and they were trying to actually address some of the concerns. So while we know what causes malaria and we also know the scientific kind of solutions for it, both in terms of medicines, the control mechanisms in terms of insecticide spray, in terms of use of bed nets, or in terms of controlling the larva, etc. None of these things actually worked because they have been designed in a very technical sense. So healthcare policies and programs in India can be successful only when communities are actually made to be part of these design implementation of these programs. Simply spending crores of money on the insecticides and other scientific kind of medical kind of things may not be the complete solution, and hence a comprehensive kind of a policy is possible when you have a social scientist, a biomedical professional, health policy makers together design the health policy programs, and that's how the one can actually generate a policy that is more community centric and need based, and this can actually incorporate actually the communities into the policy level initiatives. And hence the role of sociologists actually is immense in understanding the prevalence or higher incidence of risk and diseases as much as providing solution to these disease situations.